So remember, if you want to join us on our weightlifting camp in Praia da Luz in the south of Portugal in the end of May, please do send us an email below at sikastrength@gmail.com. The weightlifting camp is set to be a great time. We do a camp every year. We've done them in London. We did it in Portugal last year. Fantastic location, great food, great weather, enjoyable. It's 5 days, training sessions, 2 training sessions a day. You don't have to be a great weightlifter. You don't have to be in great shape to learn a lot from this. This is much about enjoying those training sessions and learning as it's about pushing your limits. Sometimes people will come in great shape and lift really heavy weights, and that's great. And then sometimes people just want to come and learn and familiarize themselves with weightlifting and learn stuff. So we will be able to cater that from those sessions while we're there. Welcome back to Sika Strength and welcome back to my training vlog. So this particular session, we've just all about weightlifting, no bodybuilding, no sprints. So currently the sprints are gone. On the flats, we're just doing hill sprints once, twice a week and lots of plyometrics, as you've seen. And I will get some of those hill sprints on video. So still looking for a track to use conveniently, but there is unfortunately none. And as many of you said last week, you said it's pretty strange. There's so many schools around you in places that have a track, and it's getting a bit more common with some of the schools in Ireland that they will have tracks, but unfortunately none of them are open to the public. Sometimes they're open to clubs, to used athletic clubs, running clubs, but they're very rarely open for an individual to join on the school grounds, which is fair enough, that makes sense. So this particular session, we're using one of my favourite variations in weightlifting, and that is the low hang snatch. Now, it's not my favourite for everyone, but it's my specific favourite for my snatching, and it has been for the last few years, and that's the low hang snatch below the knee. So my biggest issue is positions, generally that second pull, my back position, and maintaining that back position during the first and second pull. And the low hangs are really good for me to keep my shoulders over the barbell in front of the knees. That's a good way of reinforcing that position for me. So I go just about mid shin for these low hangs. I'm working up just 110 kilos here. We finished off at 120, which is probably one of the best reps of the day, and that's moving along nicely. I think that's 20 kilos more than I've done so far since I've started snatching again on the low hang. So I will keep these moving. Generally I'll keep these pretty high reps, maybe 2s and 3s, but it is pretty happy with that. So that low hang snatch is moving quite nicely. And then obviously, as Anton says, I have to do pulls every time I'm snatching, so I like to keep them either the same weight or a little bit heavier, and if it's variation, I like to do the same variation. So some low hang pulls today. So my big thing, back position, back position, back position, head up, chest up, maintaining that head up and chest up in the start position, and then really importantly, maintaining it throughout the pull. And the low hang is a great variation for me for that, because it's mostly a cue to focus on that. So as I'm going down, I can focus on that position and get a little bit more time. But also, of course, the strengthening position, because I'm going down that eccentric and trying to change that direction as quickly as possible in the low hang position. So it lets me work in that quite well. So for some lifters, it's very, very useful. So if you find yourself pulling your chest back behind your knees too early, if you're looping around your knees in the second pull, that can be one great variation. That in. On top of that, then pause snatches can also be a great variation. Of course, you don't have a lot of time for variation in your training. You've only so many you can choose from. So it's smart to be precise. Then moving on to the squats on that same day in back squats, the hip flexor or knee extensor, all of the above is definitely getting better slowly. It's trending in the right direction as long as I stay on top of the mobility and soft tissue work. And it was pretty good on these particular days, so I managed to work up to some sets of 5 at 200, and I'm quite happy with how it's progressing. My major roadblock with that is me staying diligent with the soft tissue work, and there's kind of layers of issues as the soft tissue work progresses. And for me, the barbell is the best. The foam roller is okay, but the weight and the smaller surface area of the barbell adds a lot more, so again, a lot more pressure per square centimeter in the barbell, and I can push on a little bit more. So it's not quite as good when I use a foam roller. So it's before every training session and after, and then some stretching after as well while I'm very warm. So very happy with these sets of squats. So again, I'm still working on technique as much as ever. So focusing on positions, the back position, the head up position, hips in, staying vertical, driving through the quads, all that stuff I was talking about in that Good Morning video. I'm still focusing on here on these squats, and I'm pretty happy with how these are moving. So I might up the volume a little bit on the reps on 200, but I'm in a place where I've certainly sufficient leg strength to do what I want to do, weightlifting and otherwise. So I will keep it maintaining as much as I can. I haven't done a heavy single this year, I don't think, so I might just do one of those soon, maybe next month in the weightlifting camp. Moving on then to the Sunday. some snatching from the floor, and I was pretty happy with this session. So main focus in this session was a chest up position and then holding that chest up as I was pulling from the floor. You can see in some of these reps that I'm slightly putting my chest back behind the barbell as I begin pulling. And you can see that as a result of my arms, my shoulders kind of moving forward as I'm pulling. So if when I pull and I keep a good chest position, then we'll see those shoulders not moving as much, and it results in a better quality snatch. My big thing is I can get a good position in the start, even though it's quite uncomfortable, but then I can maintain it, or I need to maintain it during that second pull, but it is difficult for me to do that. Not for any particular strength reason, but it needs to be a new skill that I've learned. I'm also doing lots of cat-cows as well to just essentially make that decision or reinforce that particular position, that extended and arched back. It's not when I have reinforced too much, so that unweighted stretch is a good way of familiarizing myself with that. So lots of sets with 90 here, and by and large I'm pretty happy with them. One thing I can see is that I'm cutting that second pull a little bit short watching, and I didn't feel it or notice at the time, but watching these back now I can see that I'm pushing those hips in just a little bit too early, and those degrees of difference make all the difference at heavier weights, so we need to watch that. Now obviously you can only focus on so many things at one time, so I was focused here primarily on the chest position and maintaining that chest up as I was pulling. I was actually pulling a little bit slower from the floor, because when I pulled too fast or at normal speed, I was essentially hitting a position that I was losing that chest position. So I had to slow down the first pull a little bit on these. Not so slow that was a variation, but slow enough that I actually had to think about it. So again, I don't go up in weights most of the time unless it's a heavy day, until I'm pretty happy with the technique. So I was quite happy with this 100. So I wanted to move up to 110 for some doubles, and I was pretty happy with the second 110. Now I'm not going to lie, today I wasn't the freshest on this particular day. I was awake all night with someone who had a little vomiting bug, but he's a trooper and it didn't bother him, so we were watching Doom at 2 a.m. and he was pretty happy. Now obviously he doesn't watch a lot of TV and we don't make a habit of it, but I needed to stay up with him to make sure that he wasn't going to vomit again while he was in bed. So I was pretty happy with that. Now I didn't get to sleep for until about 3, but still training must be done and the kids must be cared for. So I was pretty happy with the second double, and I'm heartened by that. Now, unfortunately, at the time of recording, I have that vomiting bug, and I've taken yesterday off, and I'll take today off as well, and I'll do a little bit tomorrow. But I lost 2 kilos overnight, so I need to gather that back. My joints are a little bit sore, muscles are a little bit achy, so I'll do a bit of mobility, and I'll do some longer, lower intensity cardio tonight just to do a little bit of training. But it is, it is what it is. It happens. You need to be smart when you're sick. But I'll talk about that later next vlog. And then we moved on to the pulls again. Just kept them at 110. Felt like sufficient weight to do the pulls at and practice that position. So the pulls for me are as much about reinforcing the positions as, quote unquote, strength training in those positions. It's not that the positions are weak. It's that I don't maintain those positions well due to it not being an ingrained habit or technique. So finished off with some squats at 200, and these were okay, not as good as the 5s on Thursday, but again, it's mostly about maintaining around that 200 to 220 mark for me, and I was pretty happy with that. So hope you enjoyed today's training vlog. I hope you enjoyed the training vlogs. As you've got to the end, it's probably a good person to ask, but what makes the vlogs engaging for you? What makes you want to watch the vlogs? Like, what is it you want to see in a vlog? And I'm not asking because I feel like I'm not doing enough in the vlogs, or I feel like I'm having a creative crisis, but I genuinely want to know, what is it that you watch vlogs for? What keeps it engaging? Is it a particular journey to somewhere? Is it like knowing I'm trying to get to a final destination? Is it information about what I'm doing in the training? Is it how I'm dealing with things? Is it simply just the act of watching training, which is primarily why I would watch a vlog? For example, I would just watch someone training because I want to see them training, if that makes sense, which I'm sure it does. So do let me know what makes the vlog engaging for you as a viewer, or what you want to see. Was it better when I did the more in the moment vlogs where I was talking to the road mic and I was talking through the session? Because I'm pretty happy to make both, but I feel like the information is a different kind of concise here in the studio as opposed to recording them in the session. I think they both have their benefits. So do let me know what it is you kind of want to see in vlogs. And it doesn't have to be, I want to see you do this. You can just be, this is what I like in other people's stuff, or this is what keeps me engaged or what I enjoy.